Captain Ju Park stood quietly at the window of the Earth ship Horizon. Her eyes followed the movement of the huge alien ships that surrounded her small vessel. These magnificent spacecraft belonged to the Galactic Confederation, a group of advanced alien species who controlled this part of space. "Captain, they want to talk to us again," said Mina Lee from her communication station. Her voice was tight with worry. Captain Park nodded and straightened her uniform. "Put them on screen." The main screen lit up with the face of Admiral Vexus. The alien commander had skin that looked like crystal, catching light and throwing small rainbows across his features. His eyes narrowed as he looked at the humans. "So these are the creatures who think they can travel among the stars," Vexus said. His voice had a musical quality, but his words were sharp. "Your ship is like a child's toy compared to ours. I'm surprised it didn't fall apart on your journey here." Lieutenant Do-Yeon Kim, standing beside Captain Park, clenched his fists. But the captain remained calm. "We may be new to space travel, Admiral, but we're quick learners," she replied. Vexus made a sound that might have been laughter. It reminded Park of ice cracking. "Quick learners. Your ship's outer shell is so thin our weakest weapons would tear through it like paper. Go back to Earth before you embarrass yourselves further." Park opened her mouth to answer, but never got the chance. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Red warning lights flashed on every control panel. "Captain," called out Junho Choi from the tactical station. "Multiple ships just appeared. They're attacking the Confederation fleet." On the main screen, they could see strange black ships appearing as if from nowhere. These new vessels moved like oil on water, flowing around the Confederation's defensive fire. When they touched an alien ship, that part of the ship turned black and began to crumble. Admiral Vexus's face showed fear for the first time. "The Void Scourge," he whispered. Then, louder, "Humans, leave this area immediately if you want to live." "We can help," Captain Park said quickly. "The Horizon has several defensive systems." "Help." Vexus cut her off, his voice rising. "Your pathetic ship would be destroyed in seconds. Do not insult us with your offers. Leave. Now." The screen went dark as Vexus ended the communication. "Captain, the Confederation ships are taking heavy damage," reported Junho. "The black ships seem to be eating them." Park watched as one of the massive alien vessels broke apart, its pieces drifting into space. Another was nearly covered in the black substance, its lights flickering out section by section. "Set course for the edge of the system," she ordered reluctantly. "Keep us at safe distance, but within sensor range." "Yes, Captain," responded the pilot, tapping commands into her console. The Horizon slowly pulled away from the battle. As they retreated, Chief Engineer Geo Kang entered the breach. He walked to Park's side and observed the conflict on the screen. "They think we're weak," he said quietly. "They think we're helpless," Park agreed. Kang smiled slightly. "They have no idea what we're capable of, do they?" Captain Park turned to look at her engineer. Kang was brilliant, one of Earth's finest minds. He had designed many of the Horizon's hidden systems, systems that looked simple but held surprising power. "No," she replied, watching as another Confederation ship fell to the Void Scourge. "But I think they'll find out soon enough." She turned to address her crew. "I want complete sensor readings on these Void Scourge ships, every detail, every weakness." "Captain," Mina called out, "I'm picking up distress signals from the Confederation fleet. They're being overwhelmed." Park nodded grimly. "Record everything. If we're going to help them, we need to understand what we're fighting." "Help them?" Lieutenant Kim asked. "They just told us to leave." "Yes, they did," Park agreed. "And we will for now. But sooner or later, they'll need us. And when they do, we'll be ready." The Horizon continued its retreat, sensors gathering data on the one-sided battle. The black ships moved with terrifying efficiency, breaking down the once mighty Confederation vessels into drifting debris. The scourged ships seemed to absorb energy, observed Science Officer Subin Yoon. studying her readings. Every weapon the Confederation fires makes them stronger. Interesting, muttered Kang. That might be useful information. Captain Park watched as the last Confederation ships fled the battle. The Void Scourge didn't pursue them, instead staying to consume the remains of destroyed vessels. Set course for Earth, she ordered. Maximum speed. Going home with our tails between our legs? Asked Lieutenant Kim, disappointment clear in his voice. No, Park replied with a small smile. Going home to prepare. The horizon needs some adjustments. What kind of adjustments? Kang asked, already looking excited at the possibilities. The kind that will surprise Admiral Vexus and his Confederation. Park's eyes never left the screen showing the retreating alien ships, and maybe save them from the Void Scourge. As the horizon turned toward Earth, the crew felt a mix of emotions. They had been dismissed, insulted, and ordered away. But they had also witnessed something important, the fall of the supposedly unbeatable Confederation fleet. Record a message for Earth Command, Park told Mina. Tell them we've made first contact with 2 alien species. One thinks we're weak, and the other doesn't know we exist yet. She paused before adding, and tell them we're going to need everything engineering has been working on. Yes, Captain, Mina replied. As the stars stretched into lines around them, Captain Park thought about the battle they had witnessed and the one that was surely coming. The aliens had laughed at humanity's ship, called it fragile and primitive. They would learn their mistakes soon enough. 6 months passed since the first encounter with the Galactic Confederation and the mysterious Void Scourge. Captain Ju Park sat in the main briefing room of Earth's Space Command, watching the grim message playing before her and her senior officers. The holographic display showed planet after planet covered in darkness. Once bright cities were now black patches. Forests and oceans turned to dead, empty spaces. The Void Scourge had spread faster than anyone expected. This is terrible, said First Officer Do-Yim Kim, shaking his head slowly. Look at what's happened to their worlds. Captain Park nodded. The Confederation has lost 17 colony planets already. Military advisor Haijin Song leaned forward, her face serious. Their weapons aren't working against the Scourge. These parasites adapt too quickly. Each time the aliens develop a new defense, the Scourge changes to overcome it. The room fell silent as they watched more scenes of destruction. The once proud Confederation fleet was now reduced to scattered groups of damaged ships, barely holding the line against the advancing Scourge. The door to the briefing room slid open with a soft hiss. Chief Engineer Jiao Kang walked in, carrying a data tablet. His face showed signs of exhaustion, but his eyes were bright with excitement. Captain, I have good news, he said, placing the tablet on the table. The upgrades to the horizon are finally complete. He tapped the screen, and a new image appeared. Their ship, but dramatically changed. The once simple vessel now featured new sections and systems that made it look almost like a different craft entirely. We're calling her the Phoenix now, Kang said with pride. Captain Park smiled. Phoenix, a good name. Since she has risen from the ashes of our old design, Kang explained, pointing to various parts of the ship's new layout. The outer hull still looks somewhat patched together, noted Lieutenant Kim. That's deliberate, Kang replied with a small smile. Remember how the Confederation dismissed us for looking primitive? We're using that to our advantage. Before he could explain further, the communications panel on the wall chimed with an urgent tone, the signal for an incoming deep space transmission. Put it through, ordered Captain Park. The large screen at the front of the room flickered, and the face of Admiral Vexus appeared. The change in the alien commander was shocking. His once smooth crystalline features were now dulled and cracked. Deep lines ran across his face, and his eyes had lost their bright glow. Captain Park, Vexus said, his voice softer than before. The arrogance they had heard during their first meeting was gone. The Galactic Confederation requires assistance. Park kept her face neutral, though she felt a small sense of satisfaction. Admiral Vexus, We've been monitoring the situation with the Void Scourge. The reports are concerning. Concerning? Vexus repeated with a bitter laugh. We are being consumed. The Scourge has taken 17 of our worlds. Our weapons are useless. Our greatest scientists have no answers. He paused, visibly struggling with his next words. We need help. Captain Park nodded slowly. We may have a solution. Vexus's eyes narrowed with suspicion. What could your primitive technology possibly offer against this threat? The Scourge has defeated our most advanced defenses. Engineer Kang stepped forward into view of the transmission. Sometimes, Admiral, the simplest solutions are the most effective. Explain, demanded Vexus. Kang looked to Captain Park, who gave him a small nod. The Void Scourge feeds on energy, correct? Kang asked. Yes, Vexus confirmed. They absorb any energy we use against them, growing stronger with each attack. We've designed our ship with that in mind, said Kang. The Phoenix appears simple, even primitive on the outside, but inside. Chief Engineer, Park interrupted gently. Perhaps we should show rather than tell. She turned back to the screen. Admiral, we'll depart Earth tomorrow. The Phoenix will reach your current position in approximately 2 weeks. Please send the coordinates of your main defense fleet. Vexus looked uncertain. You're sending just one ship. One ship is all we need, Park replied confidently. After the transmission ended, First Officer Kim turned to his captain. Do you really think the Phoenix can make a difference against something that destroyed 17 worlds? Captain Park looked at the image of their upgraded ship, with its seemingly patchwork design hiding sophisticated technology beneath. The Confederation made a critical mistake, she said. They assumed that advanced always means complex and obvious. They built bigger weapons, stronger shields, more powerful engines, all things the Scourge could see and adapt to. While we built something different, added Engineer Kang. Something that looks weak but isn't. Military Advisor Song studied the ship's schematics. The Scourge won't see us as a threat. Exactly, Park smiled. And that will be their downfall. Later that day, Captain Park stood in the hangar, looking up at the Phoenix. The ship's exterior had been deliberately designed to look cobbled together, with visible welds and seemingly mismatched parts. But she knew what lay beneath, Earth's most advanced technology, developed in secret over the past 6 months. Ready to save the galaxy, Captain? Asked Engineer Kang, joining her. Ready to try, she replied. The Confederation may have laughed at us before, but they're not laughing now. No, agreed Kang. Now they're begging for our help. As the crew prepared for departure, Captain Park felt the weight of what lay ahead. Tomorrow, they would take their seemingly fragile ship to face an enemy that had brought an advanced alien civilization to its knees. The Void Scourge was about to learn that appearances could be deceiving. The Phoenix moved slowly through space, approaching the remains of the once mighty Confederation fleet. What had once been hundreds of gleaming ships was now just 27 battered vessels. They formed a defensive line around the last safe planet in this sector. Commander Tejin Ryu stood on the Phoenix's secondary bridge. As Earth's military liaison, he represented humanity to the alien forces. On his view screen, he could see the faces of various Confederation officers watching the Phoenix's approach. Their expressions ranged from doubt to open disdain. That's the human vessel, asked an alien with blue-tinted crystal skin. Commander Ryu recognized him as Admiral Vexus's second-in-command. It looks even more fragile than before. Another alien officer laughed. They added more jump to their ship, and think that will help us. Commander Ryu glanced at weapons specialist Sung Min-yoon, who stood beside him. They shared a knowing look. The aliens had no idea what the Phoenix was truly capable of. We appreciate your warm welcome, Ryu said politely. Captain Park sends her regards and assures you we're ready to assist. From the outside, the Phoenix did look strange. Its hull was covered with patches of different metals. Cables and wires were visible in some places. Strange dish-shaped objects stuck out at odd angles, It appeared more like a repair job gone wrong than a warship. "Your assistance is not required in direct combat," said the alien commander firmly. "Stay behind our defense line. Observe only." "We understand," replied Commander Ryu, though he had no intention of following that order when the time came. On the main bridge, Captain Ju Park listened to this exchange while studying the tactical display. Her crew worked quietly at their stations, all aware of the plan they had spent months preparing for. "Status report," Park ordered. "All systems functioning normally," reported Officer Mina Lee. "The outer hull sensors are active and ready. Energy absorption grid at full capacity," added Engineer Jiao Kang. "The bait is set, Captain." Park nodded. "Now we wait for the fish to bite." They didn't have to wait long. Alarms sounded across all ships in the fleet. "The Void Scourge approaches," announced the alien tactical officer over the shared communication channel. Multiple vessels detected entering the system. The view screen showed the terrible sight. Hundreds of black ships moved together like a swarm of insects, flowing through space toward the defensive line. "All Confederation vessels, prepare to engage," ordered Admiral Vexus from his flagship. Then, almost as an afterthought, he added, "Human vessel, retreat to a safe distance." Captain Park leaned forward and pressed the communications button. "With respect, Admiral, we'll hold our position. Let them come to us." "This is not a request, human," Vexus snapped. "Trust us," Park replied simply. Before Vexus could argue further, the Void Scourge attacked. The black ships accelerated suddenly, rushing toward the defensive line. The Confederation ships fired their weapons, brilliant beams of energy that cut through space toward the attackers. But the energy weapons had no effect. The Scourge ships absorbed every blast, growing darker and faster with each hit. They slammed into the first line of alien defenders. Within minutes, 3 Confederation ships were disabled, their lights flickering out as the black parasitic material spread across their hulls. "Second defense line, hold position," ordered Vexus, his voice tight with stress. Then, to the Phoenix, "Humans, retreat while you still can." "Actually," Captain Park replied calmly, "we're just getting started." She nodded to Engineer Kang. "Activate the outer grid." "Grid active," Kang confirmed, his fingers dancing across his control panel. The Phoenix stayed in place as the Confederation ships retreated around it. The Void Scourge, perhaps sensing an easy target, surged toward the apparently vulnerable human ship. "Captain, they're surrounding us," warned Tactical Officer Junho Choi. "Perfect," Park smiled. "Just as we planned." The first Scourge ship reached the Phoenix and attached itself to the hull. Under normal circumstances, this would mean the beginning of the end. The parasitic vessel would start consuming the ship's metal and energy. Instead, something unexpected happened. Where the black ship touched the Phoenix, blue light began to pulse. The Scourge vessel seemed to shudder. More Scourge ships attached themselves to different parts of the Phoenix. Each connection point glowed with the same blue light. "What is happening?" Admiral Vexus demanded over the communication channel. "Your ship should be breaking apart." Captain Park allowed herself a small smile before answering. "We built our ship to look vulnerable, Admiral. It's actually a trap." On the screen, the alien commander's crystalline face showed confusion. "The Void Scourge feeds on energy," explained Engineer Kang, joining the conversation. "So we designed our ship to look like an easy meal. But the patches on our hull, they're actually specialized absorption plates, and those odd-looking dishes, energy redirectors. When the Scourge attaches to us," continued Captain Park, "they try to feed on our energy. But instead, our systems start draining them." As if to prove her point, more Scourge ships attached to the Phoenix, and the blue glow grew stronger. The black parasitic material began to thin, revealing the metal underneath. "Impossible," whispered Vexus. "Watch," said Park. The Phoenix now had over a dozen Scourge ships attached to it. The blue light pulsed faster, brighter. The black ships tried to pull away, But it was too late. They were caught. "You see, Admiral," Park explained, "sometimes the best way to defeat a predator is not with bigger weapons, but with a better trap. And that's exactly what the Phoenix is, a trap designed to look like prey." Throughout the Confederation fleet, alien officers watched in amazement as the human ship they had dismissed as primitive now stood at the center of the battle, turning the tide against an enemy they had been unable to defeat. The Phoenix wasn't just surviving, it was winning. The bridge of the Phoenix hummed with energy as Captain Juu Park watched more Void Scourge ships connect to her vessel. The black parasitic ships now covered nearly half of the Phoenix's hull, their dark tendrils spreading across the surface like ink on paper. Yet instead of breaking apart, the human ship was holding firm. "Energy absorption at 70% capacity," reported Engineer Geo Kang. His eyes never left his control panel, which displayed rapidly changing numbers. "The Scourge is still trying to feed, but we're taking their power faster than they can take ours." Captain Park nodded. This was the moment they had prepared for during 6 long months of work. "How much longer until we reach maximum?" 2 minutes at current rate," Kang replied. Around them, the crew worked with focused intensity. No one spoke unnecessarily. Each person understood their role in what would happen next. On the main view screen, they could see the battle continue around them. The remaining Confederation ships had pulled back, forming a loose defensive circle while they watched the strange scene unfold. More than 20 Scourge vessels now clung to the Phoenix, their normal black color now tinged with blue light that pulsed in an increasing rhythm. "Captain, Admiral Vexus is hailing us," said Communications Officer Minali. "Put him through," Park ordered. Vexus's face appeared on a smaller screen to the side. The alien commander's crystalline features reflected the blue emergency lights of his own ship. "Captain Park, what is happening to your vessel? Our sensors show massive energy buildups." "That's correct, Admiral," Park replied calmly. "We're nearly ready for Phase 2. "Phase 2? Vexus questioned. Before Park could answer, Kang called out from his station. "Captain, we're at 90% capacity. The containment field won't hold much longer." Captain Park's eyes met Kang's across the bridge. This was the critical moment. If they waited too long, the absorbed energy would overload their systems. If they released it too soon, it wouldn't be enough to accomplish their goal. "Now, Jiho," Captain Park ordered, making her decision. Chief Engineer Kang slid his finger across a control panel and pressed a glowing red button. "Activating core distribution system." The effect was immediate. The patches that had seemed randomly placed across the Phoenix's hull suddenly lit up brightly. What had looked like simple metal plates now revealed their true purpose as they glowed with captured energy. Bright lines of blue-white power traced complex patterns across the ship's surface. Science Officer Minji Quan leaned toward the communications panel to address the watching Confederation fleet. "The parasites feed on energy," she explained clearly. "So we created a system that redirects their feeding process back on themselves." On the view screen, the Confederation officers watched in amazement. The Phoenix pulsed with accumulated energy. The Scourge ships attached to it began to writhe and twist, trying desperately to break free. But it was too late for them. "They're trying to escape," noted Tactical Officer Junno Choi. "The feedback loop is working." "Time to deliver the main strike," said Captain Park. She pressed her communication button. "All Confederation ships, move to Formation Delta. Follow our lead." Without waiting to see if the aliens would comply, Park ordered her pilot to advance. The Phoenix surged forward, pushing deeper into the heart of the Scourge swarm. The weakened parasite ships stayed connected to it, unable to break free from the energy trap. As they moved, several Confederation ships fell into position behind them, following the Phoenix in a V formation. Others remained hesitant, holding their positions. "We're approaching the center of the swarm," reported the pilot. "Maximum concentration of Scourge vessels ahead." Captain Park turned to Engineer Kang. "Ready the release mechanism." Kang nodded, his hand steady as he prepared the final sequence. "Ready, Captain." "All ships, prepare for energy wave," Park warned the fleet. "Shields at maximum." She took a deep breath, then gave the order, "Release now." Engineer Kang triggered the mechanism. For a brief moment, everything went quiet on the bridge. Then the Phoenix shuddered as a massive pulse of energy erupted from its hull. The blue-white wave expanded outward in all directions. It passed through the attached Scourge ships first, causing them to dissolve instantly. Then it reached the nearby swarm. Ship after ship broke apart as the wave hit them, unable to process their own redirected power. The energy pulse continued outward, growing weaker with distance, but still powerful enough to damage or destroy any Scourge vessel it touched. The black ships that had seemed unstoppable were now falling apart by the dozens, then hundreds. On the communication screen, Admiral Vexus watched with his mouth open in shock. "Impossible," he whispered. "No," replied Captain Park with a small smile. "Just human ingenuity." The Confederation ships that had followed the Phoenix's lead were untouched by the energy wave, protected by their position in the formation. They now pressed forward, using conventional weapons against the weakened Scourge vessels that had survived the pulse. "The Scourge swarm is breaking apart," reported Officer Choi with growing excitement. "They're retreating." Indeed, the remaining black ships were pulling back, moving away from both the Phoenix and the Confederation fleet. For the first time since the Void Scourge had appeared, they were running away. Engineer Kang looked up from his console, his face showing both exhaustion and triumph. "The absorption system is depleted. We'll need time to reset before we can do that again." "It worked better than we expected," Park noted, watching the retreating enemy. One pulse was enough to break their attack formation. Throughout the Confederation fleet, alien crews watched in disbelief as the enemy that had destroyed 17 of their worlds now fled from a single human ship, a ship they had mocked as primitive and fragile. "Captain," said Communications Officer Lee, "we're receiving messages from the Confederation ships. They're thanking us." Park nodded. "Tell them they're welcome, and inform Admiral Vexus that we're ready to share the specifications of our defense system with the Confederation." As the Phoenix turned to rejoin the alien fleet, Captain Park allowed herself a moment of pride. Humanity had proven its worth today, not through overwhelming power or advanced technology, but through cleverness and an understanding that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. The tide had turned, and it was Earth's seemingly fragile ship that had made it happen. Captain Ju Park felt small standing in the huge grand chamber of the Galactic Confederation. The room was bigger than any sports stadium on Earth, with tall ceilings that seemed to reach up to the stars themselves. Around her, thousands of alien representatives sat in rising circular tiers, their bodies of every shape, size, and color imaginable. Just 3 weeks ago, these same aliens had dismissed humanity as primitive. Now, they waited silently to hear her speak. "Thank you for this honor," she began, her voice carried clearly throughout the chamber by unseen technology. "When humans first ventured into space, we knew we had much to learn. We still do." She paused, looking around at the gathered representatives. Many leaned forward, eager to understand the species that had accomplished what their advanced civilizations could not. "Humanity has always had to adapt to survive," she continued. "When resources were scarce, we learned to make do with what we had. When systems failed, we built backups for our backups." Park gestured toward the Phoenix, visible through the giant transparent wall of the chamber. The ship still looked patched together and humble compared to the sleek Confederation vessels around it. "Our technology isn't more advanced than yours. In many ways, it's less so. But we approached the problem differently. We saw what the Void Scourge did, how they fed on energy and grew stronger from your attacks. So instead of building bigger weapons, we built a better trap." Admiral Vexus stepped forward from his position among the Confederation leadership. His crystalline form was fully restored now, gleaming with health. The cracks and dullness from the strain of war had healed. "We mistook your adaptability for weakness," he admitted, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "Your apparent simplicity for primitivism." Engineer Geo Kang, standing beside Captain Park, replied with a small smile. "A common misconception. We found that obvious power often attracts obvious threats. Sometimes, the best advantage is to be underestimated." The Supreme Council leader of the Confederation, a tall being with 6 arms and skin that shifted colors like an ocean at sunset, approached Captain Park. In her upper hands, she carried a glowing object, a sphere of light that seemed to contain a small galaxy. "Captain Ju Park of Earth," the leader spoke in a musical voice. "The Galactic Confederation presents you with our highest honor, the Star of Unity. Only 17 beings in our 10,000-year history have received this recognition." The leader placed the sphere in Park's hands. It was surprisingly light, almost weightless. "Furthermore," continued the leader, "we officially invite Earth to join the Galactic Confederation as full members, with all rights and privileges thereof." A murmur of approval swept through the gathered representatives. Many rose to their feet in a standing ovation. A gesture, Park was surprised to learn, that was common across many species. Later, aboard the Phoenix, Captain Park stood by the observation window, looking out at the stars. The ship was docked at the Confederation's main space station, an enormous structure that housed thousands of different species. First Officer Do-Yeon Kim approached her, tablet in hand. "The Confederation engineers have finished their study of our systems," he reported. "They're impressed. Very impressed." Park nodded. "And they want to create a new fleet," Kim said, showing her the plans on his tablet. "Hybrid ships combining their technology with our design philosophy. They're calling it the Phoenix class." Captain Park studied the designs. The new ships maintained the deceptive appearance of the original Phoenix, seemingly patched together, with visible conduits and oddly placed components. But underneath that humble exterior would be the combined vest of human and alien technology. "They've learned the lesson quickly," she noted with satisfaction. "Yes, but," Kim hesitated, "some of their engineers are focusing too much on the technology itself. They think it's just about better energy absorption systems or cleverer traps." Park nodded, gazing out at the stars again. "Remind them that the most important element isn't the technology." Young Ensign Jiyoung Han, overhearing as she passed by, stopped curiously. "What is it then, Captain?" Captain Park smiled at the young officer. "The willingness to appear weak when you are strong, and the wisdom to know when to reveal your true power." She turned back to the window, where Earth could be seen as a tiny blue dot in the distance. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger galaxy. They had been laughed at, dismissed, and underestimated. And that had been their greatest advantage. "The Phoenix saved the Confederation not because it was the strongest ship," Park continued, "but because it was the one ship the enemy never saw as a threat until it was too late." Han nodded slowly, understanding dawning on her young face. In the days that followed, Captain Park and her crew became celebrities throughout the Confederation. Alien officers requested transfers to train with humans. Earth scientists and engineers found themselves working alongside the best minds from 100 different worlds. And far away, beyond the edges of Confederation space, the remaining Void-Scourge ships regrouped and adapted. They would return someday, stronger and smarter than before. But when they did, they would face a united galaxy that had learned an important lesson from humanity. True strength isn't always about who has the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. Sometimes it's about who has the wisdom to appear weak while hiding their true power, and the patience to wait for just the right moment to reveal it. As the Phoenix prepared for its journey home to Earth with news of their new place in the galactic community, Captain Park took one last look at the vast expanse of stars before her. What other challenges waited out there? What other enemies or friends would they meet? Whatever came next, humanity was ready. Not because they were the strongest or the most advanced, but because they knew how to adapt, how to survive, and how to turn apparent weakness into unexpected strength. That was the true legacy of the Phoenix and the gift humanity brought to the stars.